now, this is our time in the studio with Carolina Carol. I welcome the viewers of Freedom. Let's get straight to the important news. The Russian army has once again deliberately launched 5 missile strikes on the energy infrastructure of Kharkiv. This was reported by the city mayor, Ihor Terekov. And according to him, the damage is very significant. Terekov stated that Russia is trying to break Ukrainians with fear and darkness. He also said they want to destroy the results of months of hard work, what has already been rebuilt more than once after previous attacks. At the same time, Terekov assured that everything will be restored. The Kyiv region was also under attack by Russian occupiers. The strikes hit residential areas and critical infrastructure facilities. This was reported by the head of the Regional Military Administration, Mykola Kalashnik. According to him, in the Fostiv district, a civilian was killed. 13 private houses and 1 apartment building were damaged. Garages, warehouses, and production facilities were also damaged by the destruction. The most severe damage was in the Fostiv district, and the city of Slavutych was completely left without power due to strikes on energy facilities. All critical infrastructure facilities have been switched to backup power. Last night, Russian occupiers' drones attacked medical facilities in Kyiv. 1 person was killed and 4 others were injured. Patients and staff were evacuated. Our colleague visited the scene of the incident, Irina Yusupova. She will tell in detail about the consequences of the night attack.
Welcome to the studio. We are currently in the Abolonsky district of the capital, near a medical center that was attacked by a Russian drone at around 2 o'clock in the morning. The landing was at the 2nd floor level. That's where the patients' rooms are located. It is known that 1 person died. This is a very young man. He is only 30 years old. 4 people were injured. 1 woman is in extremely serious condition. This elderly woman is 98 years old. She was bedridden and simply inhaled too much carbon monoxide. This clinic is designed for 70 beds, but at the time of the attack, there were 26 patients here. It is already known that 16 of them have been transferred to municipal hospitals in our capital. Thank you. As for the other 10 people who are feeling more or less okay, their relatives just came and took them home. We managed to speak with the director of this clinic, and here's what she told us. We went in.
There was a lot of water everywhere. There was a huge amount of water. The alarm went off. There was a lot of debris, both on the 2nd and 3rd floors. There was destruction everywhere. I don't quite understand how it happened. In many places, the ceiling just collapsed. Apparently it was a detonation. The windows, a lot of them were blown out. But, all of that is minor compared to the tragedy that happened. We're worried about all of this, but it's less important. We'll restore everything. The main thing is our patients and our staff. Right now, we've gathered together and are discussing how we'll keep working, what to do next.
This clinic, there is a shelter, and as the director told us, some patients, when the air raid siren sounded, it was after 1 in the morning, did go down to the shelter. But they partly ignored this alert, saying that the night had been more or less quiet, and this strike was unexpected. Basically, the local residents are saying the same thing. We managed to talk to a woman who lives in the neighboring building, and here's what she told us.
I was just scared. It was such a fright. I jumped out of bed, but then I went back to sleep. Because after that, everything was calm. There was 1 strike, and it was muffled. That was enough.
It's also important to mention that all the emergency services, firefighters, and police arrived at the scene of the tragedy literally within 10 minutes. The fire was quickly contained, but there wasn't really a blaze to begin with. We went up to the 2nd floor, and all these terrible destructions, the collapsed walls and ceilings, are all consequences of the explosion. So there was a very powerful explosion, and then smoke filled the place. The clinic's operating block, the diagnostics department, the MRI, and CT machines were not damaged. But obviously, no one is going to work there right now. Right now, the doctors and nurses are trying to bring at least some order to the place on their own. And of course, they're also tallying up the losses.
After the overnight Russian attack on the hospital in Kyiv, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy stated that partners should not forget about providing daily assistance to Ukraine, in particular with means of defense.
Last night, the Russian army struck yet another hospital in Kyiv that was still operating. Our partners need to remember that air defense is needed every single day. Funding for the production of interceptor drones is needed every day. Equipment for the energy sector is needed every day. We will be working this week with our European and American partners to ensure Ukraine receives the necessary assistance. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, Telegram. And
Kramatorsk, Donetsk region, Russian occupiers struck the grounds of a medical facility. According to the Kramatorsk City Council, Russian forces hit the private sector with aerial bombs. As a result of the attack, a civilian man was injured and is receiving medical assistance. 3 residential houses, shops, and warehouse facilities were also damaged. Explosions were also heard in Chernigov. A business was affected as a result of the Russian attack. This was reported by the head of the city military administration, Dmytro Brzezinski. A fire broke out in a garage cooperative and a private house. 15 residential houses were damaged. 8 garages were destroyed, and another 96 were damaged. Outbuildings and warehouse structures were also hit. There were no fatalities or injuries. Due to the overnight Russian attacks, the energy infrastructure in several regions of Ukraine was affected. In particular, one of the generating facilities in Donetsk region was hit. There, as well as in Kharkiv and Chernihiv regions, there are power outages, according to the Ministry of Energy. Emergency repair work is ongoing, where the security situation allows, of course. Experts note that the situation is difficult, but under control. Over the past night, the Russian army attacked Ukraine with 9 ballistic missiles, Iskander-M, S-300 surface-to-air guided missiles, and also launched 165 attack UAVs. Ukrainian defense forces shot down or suppressed 137 Russian drones. Another 990 Russian occupiers were eliminated by Ukrainian defense forces just in the past day, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Thus, the total losses of the Russian army since the start of the full-scale invasion have exceeded 1,212,000 people. In addition, Ukrainian defenders destroyed 8 tanks, 2 armored combat vehicles, 29 artillery pieces, and 2 multiple rocket launchers yesterday. They also disabled 170 units of Russian automotives and special equipment. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine recorded 229 combat engagements on the front line over the past day. Russian occupiers stormed Ukrainian positions in the Konstantinivka direction 18 times. There were another 54 attempted attacks in the Pokrovsk sector and 24 in the Alexandrivka section of the front. At the same time, the hottest spot yesterday was the Huliaipol direction. There, the defense forces repelled 5 attacks by Russian invaders. And in the Kupiansk direction, Ukrainian soldiers stopped an assault by Russian troops. The enemy tried to use the Soyuz gas pipeline for covert movement and force buildup. This was reported by the 7th Air Assault Corps of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. About 50 Russian soldiers were involved in the operation, but the attack was completely repelled. At the same time, at least 40 invaders were eliminated. The situation in the sector controlled by Ukrainian forces remains stable. Anti-drone cloaks for Ukrainian servicemen. Volunteers from the Volyn region have produced more than 2,000 units of protective thermal clothing. At first, they sewed plate carriers, fleece sweaters, hats, and other clothing for Ukrainian defenders. And now they're supplying the front with anti-drone cloaks. You can learn more about their work in my colleague's report.
Here we're cutting out thermal insulators that protect against heat. This fabric goes on the bottom. In the middle, we cut the thermal insulator to the same size as the foil.
Volunteers Katerina and Ludmila are laying out the materials on the table. They later sew anti-drone cloaks from these prepared pieces. Ludmila's son is currently at the front, so she knows better than anyone how much Ukrainian defenders need help, and she dedicates all her free time to this.
I wait, I hope. I wait, I hope, I hold on. Here, being part of the group brings some comfort, and it gets a little easier, a little better. And every time we send the guys the cloaks, they're happy. They say everything's great, keep making more and more. Sometimes we run out of materials, sometimes we run out of foil. But we do our best. Everything we can do, everything that depends on us, we do it all.
The women came together from the very first days of Russia's full-scale invasion and started helping the Ukrainian military. At first, we wove camouflage nets and sewed covers for howitzers, and then the soldiers themselves told us what they needed. Nets are still in high demand, so the volunteers managed to make those too.
It's the season. The guys are asking. They really need nets. The snow has fallen. They really need nets. My son has been at the front in the east since June. He's been fighting for 3.5 years. He volunteered, and we're doing our best here, helping however we can.
The volunteers admit they didn't have any special skills in sewing military gear. They didn't have any. They learned everything on their own.
We sewed fleece jackets, hats, and plate carriers. We've sewn just about everything. Raincoats, ponchos. I don't even know how many of these cloaks we've made by now. I just want to help somehow, to make some kind of contribution. I can't even imagine just sitting at home doing nothing anymore.
Alexandra couldn't just sit at home doing nothing either. In the spring of 2022, she was forced to move from Zaporizhia with her 2 children and husband. Now her husband is a soldier in the 14th Mechanized Brigade, and she's helping in the rear however she can.
Right now I'm sewing hoods. Yes, right now I'm sewing hoods. These hoods for the cloaks are really convenient because most people sew them without this visor. This is something our girls came up with. They invented it so the guys could see. It's also insulated, and it's really convenient that it fastens with Velcro. Since
the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, women have been working together. They pool their money and organize charity events, and with the funds they raise, they buy materials for their work. A roll of this fabric costs almost $100, and it's only enough for 10 of these cloaks.
Today, this is a war of drones, and the most important thing at the front is to protect our defenders from UAVs. That's why we agreed to start sewing them. We wouldn't be making them on a large scale if they hadn't been tested. The guys put them on, ran around in them, walked, then took them with them and filmed from the drone. So they tested them. 98% of heat and light does not get through. It's 2.20 meters long without the hood.
The volunteer work grew into a public organization. They started involving foreign partners, and with their help, they send vehicles to the front and use donations to buy drones for the servicemen.
We work for the entire front. We can't refuse anyone because it's truly needed. And just today, to give you an idea for the night, how many messages there have been since morning, because we didn't work yesterday or the day before. Raincoats are urgently needed. Raincoats. We have to, and that's why we work, because we have to save the country to save the guys.
In a single day, the women can sew anywhere from 1 to several dozen of these raincoats. And since they started making anti-drone protection specifically, they've already produced about 2,000 items. They say they'll keep working as long as there's a need for it. Havlo Melnicek from Volyn region, reporting for Freedom TV Channel.
In Latvia, a criminal case has been opened regarding the damage to an underwater optical cable in the Baltic Sea. The incident occurred on January 2nd. The police inspected a vessel that may be connected to the damage of this cable. The ship and its crew have not been detained, but the sailors are cooperating with the investigation. Law enforcement agencies are not disclosing the name of the company that owns the cable or the name of the vessel. However, according to the agency LET, the cable belongs to a Swedish company and connects Lithuania and Latvia. No communication disruptions have been recorded. Ukraine's accession to the European Union could serve as a security guarantee for the country. This was stated by the chief spokesperson of the European Commission, Paolo Pino, at a briefing in Brussels, commenting on tomorrow's meeting of the coalition leaders in Paris. According to her, this will be a continuation of the meeting at the level of national security advisors, which took place on January 3rd in Kyiv. Pino also noted progress in the negotiations and announced that the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, would participate in the Paris meeting.
Without predicting the outcome or the course of tomorrow's discussion at the leaders' level, we can share what is not a secret. We have always presented this within the framework of security guarantees. For example, there is one very clear security guarantee. This is the prospect of Ukraine joining the EU. This is part of what the European Union, on its side, can offer, regardless of what the coalition of the willing may propose. But as has already been said, it comes down to the details and who is contributing what. Let's wait for tomorrow's meeting to get more detailed information on this issue as well, and on security guarantees in general.
Subscribe to The Gaze and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.